Liz Truss has had the most disastrous start to her premiership of any prime minister in modern history. And with the markets, the public, and the Tory benches in open revolt, something big will need to change. And more people are beginning to suspect that could mean the resignation of this man, Kwasi Kwarteng. Yes, that's right. Apparently, speculation of the Chancellor's demise is rife among Tory MPs. And a story in The Independent has made me think a resignation could be imminent. The paper reported that pressure from Tory MPs to save their reputation for fiscal prudence combined with market turmoil has caused Number 10 to rethink the mini budget. A source inside Number 10 said this: staff have been told to go through Kwarteng's mini-budget measures and the Office for Budget Responsibilities working line by line. The turmoil in markets and the need to show fiscal prudence are being heeded. Everything is being looked at again, including tax cuts. The picture will change a lot if energy measures are means-tested carefully next winter and wholesale prices calm down a little. But that's not enough on its own to balance the books, as has been suggested by getting debt down as a share of GDP. The article goes on to say that the government is now considering a staggered rise in corporation tax rather than leaving it at 19%. They're also apparently thinking about delaying the 1p cut in the basic rate of income tax until 2024. So why does this make me think Kwarteng is a goner? Well, he's already been forced into one U-turn on his mini-budget. That was on the 45p tax rate. And if he has to make any more, I can't see how he could be left with any shred of credibility intact. So your big measure, slashing the 45p rate, that was the big, this is my big surprise measure to cheers in the House of Commons. He had to scrap that. If he has to scrap basically anything else in the budget, to my mind, his reputation, any credibility he has is in tatters. And also key here, the fact that discussions about economic U-turns are happening in Number 10 instead of in the Treasury, that suggests Truss might not have complete trust in her Chancellor, or I suppose another way of putting it, she might be considering throwing her Chancellor under a bus to try and save her struggling career.
I'm frankly shocked he's still here. I'm honestly surprised that he wasn't sacked like the minute the pound hit that record low against the dollar. Like normally when a government gets it this wrong to the point where, as you said, major institutions that should be their allies in these kinds of programs are like looking at them sideways, like, what are you doing? Normally when that happens, the prime minister shafts like the nearest minister to keep their own power intact. And I wonder if it speaks to, the fact that it's taken this long, if it speaks to like the depths of Liz Truss's delusion. Boris Johnson was very similar to Liz Truss in that they both have this kind of move fast and break things, kind of fake anti-establishment approach, which is, also this kind of narcissism that leads them to sort of model their behavior on like their political heroes, on historical figures, like Churchill for Johnson and Liz Truss for Margaret Thatcher. And they kind of use being prime minister as a chance to kind of cosplay their political heroes. So they both kind of share that similarity. But Johnson very much knew what he needed to do in order to ensure his political survival. He could sense when it was time to shove someone under a bus to save himself. And it doesn't matter how close you were to his project at any one time, he was ruthless in that sense. Obviously that, and the fact that the British media was unable to hold him even the tiniest bit accountable for the majority of his political career. So Truss really doesn't seem to have that kind of judgment. Or maybe it's because Truss sees herself as, in genuine ideological community with Kwasi Kwarteng, in this whole Britannia Unchained thing. Kwarteng's head is absolutely on the chopping block. It will be part of a broader public messaging rollback. We already saw that with Truss in the Commons, basically committing to there being no public spending cuts. When just a week ago we were hearing that Kwarteng had to find £60 billion in public spending cuts. That's a massive U-turn. That's, absolutely like a complete 180 in direction. I don't believe for a second that there won't be public spending cuts, even if it just looks like not raising public spending in line with inflation, which basically is the same as having public spending cuts. But, if I was Kwasi Kwarteng and I was looking at this pivot, this shift in public messaging that I'm clearly not being included in and not being clued in on, I'd probably not have too much faith in the idea of my job being mine for much longer. I'd probably be checking in on those side jobs, those other streams of income, whatever hideous things they come from. I'd be probably having a look to make sure that they're still ticking on nicely. Because even though Truss's performance in the Commons was absolutely incoherent, didn't make much economic sense, it did signal an attempt to kind of say, okay, we're binning some of the most unpopular parts, at least in public, of our agenda. And it was, as you said, very clear that number 11 were not part of that public shift. And that way she's able to pin it all completely on Kwasi Kwarteng.
Polling does show the Tories are screwed unless something very significant changes. So polling from YouGov suggests a full 78% of the public think that the government is handling the economy badly. I'll try and find someone from the 18% to get on the show soon, because that should be an entertaining conversation.
Who are they going to run? They've scraped the barrel. This is the bottom of the Tory barrel. So I don't know who they're going to put instead of her. Maybe Jeremy Hunt will finally step in at this moment.
It might be soothsayer Rishi Sunak. He predicted all of this, He might have had a shoddy economic policy in his own right. But to be fair to him, lots of Liz Truss's plans he did say would cause what it caused. Obviously, I won't be welcoming him as Prime Minister, but he does have a case that it should be his turn.